Hello again, it's Dustin with Aquarium How To. As you can see here, I got a few new baskets of Dwarf Baby Tears, and just wanted to do a quick tutorial on how I prepare and plant them in my aquarium. So take them to your workbench. You can see these plots here have it's a substance called rock wool. It's a growing medium that they use for propagation um, from the hydroponics area. So what we need to do is go ahead and remove most of this rock wool from this container. Now, a lot of people will tell you to go ahead and remove the plants itself from the rock wool completely. The problem is dwarf baby tears have very small roots. As you can see, there's not much there, and they have a tendency to be difficult to plant. A lot of people try and tie them to rocks, etc., just to kind of keep them way down so they stay on the bottom. So what I'm going to do here is we'll split this rock wool right down the middle, and then just take a pair of scissors here and just cut through the any of the plant that's kind of holding the two together. Um, it's not going to harm them, I promise. All we're going to do now is we're just going to try and leave about a centimeter of that rock wool on the bottom, which has all the roots in it. What this does is we can then cut this section into smaller pieces, depending on our application, while still retaining those roots in our rock wool. And our rock wool is going to act like an anchor for us, make it really, really simple to plant. So what I'll do here is I'm going to break this down into about 4 sections of each half to use to plant in my aquarium. You could break it down further. I don't have a whole lot of area I'm going to try and cover with this, so I'm not too worried about going the extra mile with the smaller ones. So just take your razor blade, just make a nice clean cut. So you can see here we got that little bit of rock wool. It's going to act as our anchor, kind of help keep it secure so it doesn't float off or fall apart. And I'll show you later. You can see I've had some dwarf baby tears in there, and I tried to plant them without the rock wool, and it just didn't really stay. They start floating up and just look horrible, so we'll just do it this way. Another good thing about this is a lot of people use dwarf baby tears for a foreground plant, that lush carpeting plant in the front of the aquariums. One of the really cool ways you can use this is actually if you have nooks and crannies and driftwood that's big enough to hold a little bit of substrate. You can put some substrate in there and jam these in there and get some nice little effects doing that. I've seen some really great driftwood with some dwarf baby tears growing in it. So I'm just going to line these up, get us ready to go for the aquarium. When you're working with aquarium plants outside, especially where I'm at, we got real dry air. It's really important to keep these guys moist. So I'm going to throw a moist paper towel over them until I'm ready to use them. Alright guys, let's talk about the best way to plant these. You see, almost necessary to have a pair of forceps. What I did here is I just kind of broke up the sand. I use a fluorite sand, and it just helps to push them in a little smoother. So either you kind of well out a little section with or just kind of break it up, and they go in pretty easily. And you see I'll brush a little bit back into the sides, mainly just to kind of help cover up the rock wool. Those will stay pretty well. I mean, I got a lot of current towards the bottom there, and it does pretty good. I haven't had any issues with them pulling out. The best way to get this to carpet, is to kind of lay this out in kind of a like the 5 on a dice pattern with a little bit of space between them, and it'll help kind of get them to evenly spread. So in about 2 months, this should be pretty full and evenly carpeted in here. You can see in the background, you can see that some of that nasty dwarf baby tears have started to float up just because it's not staying in the sand for me with just the bare roots by themselves. They're small plugs. It'd be a different story if it was a big mat of them. So I'm just trying to start fresh here. I've been waiting for this dwarf baby tear for a while at my local fish store. It seems like they keep trying to order it and just out of stock at the supplier. So I'm going to speed things up a little bit, just kind of give you a quick progression on how I planted this and have a final result. Here we go. I promise it took a lot longer than this. So one of the keys with keeping Dwarf Baby Tears is you gotta have highlight and high CO2, and you gotta have a little bit of current to get down to them, carry those nutrients down there. They tend to get really dense, thick mats whenever they fill in. Really having a good amount of CO2, preferably a pressurized CO2 system, combined with highlight that's going to reach the bottom of the tank, and a good strong flow that's going to really push those nutrients and that CO2 into that dense mat. One of the problems with this stuff is people are afraid to trim it. It's really simple. It's going to be just like you would trim grass or you're trimming a golf green. Just take your scissors, get in there real low. Don't be afraid to be aggressive with it. What happens if you don't actually go ahead and trim it aggressively is it'll get so dense and the oxygen will get trapped in there, and the actual mat itself will start to float off of the substrate, especially if you have like a sand substrate that doesn't hold real well. So it's very important to trim this. I trim mine probably every 2 weeks. It just depends on your own growth rate. I've heard of people using either DIY CO2 or a low-tech method and keeping them. Honestly, it almost is necessary to have CO2. Just do yourself a favor. There are other great carpeting plants if you don't want to do the CO2 route. I feel like this is definitely in the high-tech category though. So I hope you guys enjoyed. You can see here, nice little carpet started. I'm going to do an update here in a couple months, just see how it looks, and I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks a lot.